of February 2026. My name is Kurt, and this is my Good Life Meditation, a live daily broadcast exercise that I do every morning at 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which I've outlined in my book, Going Alone, which can be read for free at goingalone.org. I also spend this time thinking about yesterday and how I did with any noteworthy challenges or opportunities that I met. I go over my creed and I prepare for the coming day. But first a drink of coffee. But first, a hearty welcome and thank you to my friends on YouTube and my members on Patreon and friends on Patreon. I really do appreciate everybody that takes the time to participate in this little corner of the internet that is YouTube. I am deeply grateful for folks being here, and but I do want to let you know that this is a journal exercise. So as such, I may go places that are, this is just talking about me. So I'm talking about my own, reflecting on my own life in the last 24 hours. You're welcome to leave comments or criticisms. I will usually check the first comment or two to see if there's any audio issues, and if not, then I'll just zip on through and I read and respond to the comments later. Jumping into it then. Oh, and a cautionary thing, I do sometimes talk about my own death, my own expectations for death. So just heads up if that comes up, because that sometimes unsettles people. All right, so jumping into it, looking at my notes here for the last 24 hours, there's not much to note. Thank you, Tim. Good morning, Tim. Thanks for the audio check. Hello, Robert. Good to see you, and appreciate that. And let's see. So with audio in tact, my only note for the last 24 hours was that it was an all day in the garden. Yesterday was the most full day in the outdoors that I have spent since coming back to Japan. The weather was simply beautiful. My physical tone and capability have reached the point that I can literally spend the whole day in the garden and not suffer any ill consequences, not too unduly exhausted or anything like that. Just it was just simply a lovely day. When I first started gardening, I thought that I was too old for that, because I would get tired so quickly and just simply worn out. But I've simply realized that it was just I had to get accustomed to it. It was like trying to do long distance or running, right? Being a jogger again. Getting disappointed in the first week or so out that you can't run a marathon doesn't mean you can't run a marathon. It just means that you're not ready for that. Hold on, while I have two candles that went out. Let me get them back in shape. There we go. All right, so it took a little time to acclimate my body to build up my strength and my endurance. And yesterday I was doing a lot of physical stuff, heavy duty stuff, and I made it through the whole day without. I felt great. It was wonderful. It was glorious, actually. And the garden is reaching a point now where it's less wilderness now, and actually I have some handle on the thing. Last year, when I first bought the house this time last year, I was facing down a wild wilderness behind my house that I have now essentially tamed, but tamed in a way that I don't plan to be the master of the domain outside. I simply want to remove the 70 years of neglect, if you can call it that, human lack of attention to a formerly cultivated space. It used to be a green tea farm back there, so that we can then make good use of it. In terms of a kitchen garden and flowers and etc. And I think I'm getting there. I'm basically clearing the slate with my little Mount Fuji of compost growing every day. That was about it. Oh, there was in the morning. I did something a little bit different in the morning. I uh, had did radio exercise, and I was able to give a nice gift to my one neighbor who gave me some gloves, and which is not, well, it was nice to return the favor. And then also I had a meeting with I hired. Well, here I'll just explain it. I think I said this yesterday too, so I won't go into too much detail. I'm doing my taxes now, and I completed my U.S. taxes, finishing my federal and state returns, which all American citizens are required to do, even if you don't live in the United States. I also paid everything up, and in fact, I was due a refund. So I paid up my taxes during the course of utilizing monies throughout 2025, and turns out I was due a nice refund. So all the good reason to have a professional help me out, because when I did the taxes myself, it looked like I owe money. So the tax professional told me, in fact, Kurt, you don't owe money; you get money back. So that was a nice surprise and a real benefit of having a tax pro on my side. Another candle just went out. Let me let the what do they call the candlestick cool down a little bit. So with the U.S. side done, I then needed to do the Japan side, and I had kind of talked with Yumiko, my wife, about helping me out with that. And it was interesting. I was talking yesterday to and Yumiko wasn't keen on doing this. She didn't say no, but she definitely was like asking if Yumiko had asked me. I don't know. There's certain things that Yumiko does that I don't do. Like for example, I don't cook, and never have. And if Yumiko were to ask me to help out in the kitchen, I would do so, and I wouldn't even do it begrudgingly. But it certainly wouldn't be something that I expected to have to do. It's just after 40 years of not doing that, it just feel a little bit out of place. It's not that I'm, you know, a guy that wouldn't help in the kitchen. I would just need a little time to get used to that idea again, right? I don't know how to do it. So I could sense that Yumiko really wasn't too keen on doing the taxes. And then so I decided to, well, maybe I'll figure this out myself. And so I went ahead and did a little, I found a company in Tokyo, an accounting firm that speaks English. And I engaged their services, and I had the first meeting with the Japanese accountant yesterday, this English speaking accountant, and it all went really well. He was, his English was really good. It's a pretty big firm, and about 120 employees, tax firm, and they have a branch, kind of like the H&R Block expat branch. This company has a branch that specializes in dealing with foreigners in Japan who need to file their taxes, and they have very competent English speakers, tax accountants that will help us out. So I had the interview with him yesterday. Very pleased with the service. I'll be getting the an estimate and a quote today on the pricing, and I expect it'll be a little more expensive than usual because it's a premium service with it's kind of little bit bespoke with the English language capability. But when I engage, I'll be working with I'll have a team, the accountant. There's a tax attorney that's involved, and others, and real. I'm I'm excited about this. Anyway, so I'm in the process of doing that. I should know later today more information. But what was interesting is in the morning before, just immediately after I was done with the tax accountant, I do this online English thing that I started doing, and teaching classes. And I have a regular student of mine, a very fascinating woman. She's probably in her 80s. She's the wife of a former diplomat, not an ambassador, but a diplomat for Japan. And so as a result, she's lived overseas in many countries, has so many fascinating stories. Her English is extraordinary. I just really love talking with her. And we were on a nice first name basis. And and I see her regularly. And I was telling her about the tax thing and how that my wife didn't want to be involved in that, or I got that sense. And remember, she's in her 80s. She's an older Japanese woman. And she kind of looked at me. She said, well, of course, Kurt. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, taking care of taxes is a man's job. That's it, huh? I didn't see that angle coming, but now it all makes sense. So I guess I relieved my wife of having to get involved with men's work by doing the taxes myself, which I did all of them, and I always have. Okay, so there was that, and I learned something yesterday. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the reason why Yumiko didn't want to be involved, but I expect that probably my student is probably onto something. Other than that, it was just a fantastic day. I can't expect every day to be like that. Wasn't challenged really in any way. I did get admonished and chastened a little bit. I was pulling up a big, a tough plant that I wanted to remove wholesale from the one part of the garden to facilitate the creation of a garden path. And do you remember, if some of you have been around long enough, I almost died about this time last year, just after we bought the house. The people that had owned the house before had attempted to clear some of the bamboo by taking a machete and slicing the bamboo stalks at about 12 inches, maybe 30 centimeters or so. I don't know what that is, above the ground, and they left these to clear the view a little bit, and they had left these punji stick looking things. What's worse is they had sliced the bamboo like this, so literally creating like a blade. I didn't realize how dangerous these were. I knew I was, because I would step out there in the bamboo forest and I would have to step around these, but I never really thought about what if I fell down out there. And I had this one incident shortly after I started working in the garden. I was pulling on a root and it broke, and I flew backwards into the bamboo forest. And as I was flying through the air, I was remembering all the punji sticks up there back behind me, and I thought, this is it. I'm going out. I was all alone here. Nobody was here. We hadn't moved in yet. I was just tootling around in the garden. I landed on the ground. One of the punji sticks went right up the side of me, through my jacket, completely through it, and another one came up the side right behind my neck, right there. I had literally threaded the needle, and I almost had one go through my neck, and I almost had one go through my abdomen. So, and that became a sobering moment. Uh, remember, I told you I'd talk about death. A sobering moment for sure. It was interesting in the moment as I was flying backwards, and my thoughts process were going. I thought, well, this is it. It was an interesting moment. I had a half a second to actually think, to face down my readiness for death, and I didn't think. I was scared, as because I had enough time to process the fear, but I wasn't. It wasn't the fear of. It wasn't the fear like I left anything undone. I don't know if I had that much time to think that deeply, but it was more of the fear of, damn it, I don't want to leave the party yet. I'm just starting to have fun. And there was a very flashing moment of what a sweet, you know, bittersweet irony it would be for me to die in such a ridiculous way just at the edge of freedom, because I just retired. There we go. Damn it, I'm going to die now. But I didn't die. Very close to it, though. Anyway, if you watch yesterday's garden video, and it's a long video, it's 9 hours, but you can actually catch that moment it's actually caught on video. Because I had the garden camera running at the time, and had a beautiful shot of me out there pulling on that root. And I pulled it and it went flying backwards, and it didn't fly very far. And I kind of stumbled backwards like this. Half a second later, you can hear my wife, who was standing on the other side of the camera, saying, "Be careful." She was watching me at that moment and saw me fly backwards. And I know that she was remembering that incident that I, almost inadvertently took myself out by virtue of gardening. So that was interesting. And it was a bit of a flashback to that event. All right, so that's enough of yesterday. Let's get on with the creed. My creed, which you can read about in Going Alone in the chapter titled The Good Life. Just go to goingalone.org and click on the link titled Read the Book and look for the chapter titled The Good Life, and there it is. There are 8 objectives. These are the objectives that I'm striving to achieve by virtue of the 35 principles that I use as the instruments of my attempts at better living. The objectives are to number one, the first objective is to at all times be prepared for death, so that I don't have to have a backwards glance. Should I go down, should death come, I don't have to think, well, I forgot to do something, or dang, I wish I had more time, or to do this thing, or wish my affairs were in better order, or hey, sweetheart, I gotta tell you the passwords to the bank account, right? None of that stuff. So I want to have my affairs in good shape, my relationships in good shape, and my life's work, if not complete, at least in good shape, right? Clean and not messy. And those things are all in good shape at this point. At almost age 62, my life's work is complete. My affairs are in order, and my relationships are indeed sound. So I think I am ready for death. See, there, told you I'd talk about my own death, but it wasn't that painful. My second objective is to make very good use of my time, so that I don't let the days just slip through my fingers like sand through my at a beach. I want to make good utilization of every hour to the best of my ability. As a result, I don't relax very much. I don't do much leisure. You're not going to find me sitting around watching TV. Pretty much a man of action at all times. Although yesterday I did, while Yumiko was cooking dinner, I did attempt to watch a little bit of a Netflix drama, which was kind of fun, about a young man in India who lost everything and attempting to recover his footing. I love Indian movies. My third objective is to develop and maintain a good set of principles and objectives that I can then use towards my better living, which is precisely what I did and outline the Good Life Creed within Going Alone. My fourth objective is to cultivate good emotional reactions so that I don't respond poorly when things get tough. Number five is to execute my creed and execute my creed or execute my days according to my creed, such that I'm yielding good results throughout the day, living a, a life that's beneficial to myself and others, not a detriment or nor just a waste of time. Number six is to recognize the limits that I can't overcome, or not reasonably at least, and recognize the things that I can do so that I'm applying my energies and my time and my resources towards worthwhile ends. Number seven is to do just one thing at a time and do it slowly and deliberately and carefully. And number eight is to, by virtue of the first seven objectives, attain and then maintain a state of balance in both body and mind, which is a delicious feeling. Unlike the awkward footing yesterday in the garden, or the still more awkward footing a year ago in the garden when I almost impaled myself on bamboo. All right, so one principle from the creed to read, and today I'm going to read the very final principle in the book, titled "Being Ready." Let me go ahead and read that. This would be on page 274 of the hardbound edition of Going Alone. Let me grab the candle. Being ready, and this little bit of a nod to the Boy Scouts, right? Being ready, be prepared at all times for anything and nothing. Regarding anything, be especially ready for big things with enduring consequences like education, marriage, children, and old age. Go as far as you can with your education. That you study is more important than that you study is more important than what you study. Pick someone who shares your core values. Looks, hobbies, and all the rest are secondary. Each of your children gets at least 23 years of your life. Be ready for that. And the 23-year clock resets with the birth of every child. Regarding nothing, be ready for peace. It's harder than it seems. Oh boy. That last bit is especially prescient now. Geez, be for regarding nothing. Be ready as harder than it seems. I'm learning that in very very keenly every day in retirement for sure. All right, the next 24 hours, it's a Saturday. I have no plans. I'm just gonna wing it and have fun as I beginning to learn to do in most of the days now. Uh, it's just I'm gonna do radio exercise in half an hour. Then I'll do walk the dogs. Then I'll have breakfast with Yumiko, and then we'll see what happens, and just go out into the garden, have fun. There's got plenty of stuff. That's the great thing about gardening. There's always more to do, and it's always so much fun. Tree comments. Thanks, Tim, again for the audio check when we started out. Robert says, hello, Kurt. Currently 1 degree Celsius and 94% humidity with an air quality index of 45 in Napanee, Ontario, Canada. So the air quality is not quite as good as it was yesterday, Robert. I think it was down in the 30s yesterday, right? For me, it's 0 degrees and 85% humidity. Interesting. Robert says hello to Tim. Tim says hi to Robert. April, hi April. Says hello to everybody. Robert says hello to April. Tim says good morning. Weather check for the UK at 8:32 p.m. is 7.8 degrees Celsius and 86% humidity. A mild, blustery, showery day. We're back with the rain, huh? Rainy days in England. Tim says hi to April. There's Evelyn. Evelyn says hi to myself, Tim, Mizutatsu, and Robert. Tim says tried to get into the garden this afternoon, but was just a long run of heavy showers. Lots of pruning to do and a tree to plant. Hopefully soon. Ooh, I planted a biwa tree. What are they? Kumquats or something? I planted a biwa tree the day before yesterday that my neighbor across the way gave me a little. His mother apparently planted a biwa tree in his yard, and apparently this tree that he gave me just sprung up in its fall zone of the fruit and on its own, and it was so healthy. He said, "Kurt, why don't you take this and plant this in your garden?" Which I did 2 days ago. Tim says hello to Evelyn. Japan Monomore says hi to everyone. Hello, Japan Monomore. Tim says hi to JMA. Japan Monomore says hello to Tim. Robert says hello to Japan Monomore and Evelyn. Evelyn says hello to Japan Monomore. Lori Jane, hello, Lori Jane. Hello from a snowy, blowy Ontario. Lori, it's nice to see you. I did get your email. I just haven't responded. I am falling way behind on my email. I don't know what's going on, but I am getting so much correspondence lately, and I can't keep up. So and I'm glad to see that the package arrived. I haven't been able to read your email. I just saw the note there. I really feel bad. I am so far behind on my email right now. I don't know what's going on. It's good to see you though. Japan Monomore says, I love Indian movies of the 60s, particularly by director Satyaji Ray. Japan Monomore says, hi there, believing to Robert. Tim says hello to Lori. Lori says hi, went with a hand. Lori says, no gardening for me yet, just looking at my seed packets. Yeah, I got a couple of seed packets as well sitting out there. I'm going to be waiting. I've got a planting racks that I'm going to start using as soon as the weather gets a little bit warmer. April says, my comments are going to be out of order since I got a nagging for sweets and decided to make brownies because I don't buy snacks. Well, good luck with the brownies. Robert says hi to Lori. April says, I wasn't sure Yumiko would want to do the taxes when you originally mentioned it. Japanese taxes mixed with the YouTube stuff is more complicated than any normal person wants to deal with. Yeah, well, I certainly did learn she does not want to deal with the taxes. And it was so funny to have my older student tell me yesterday. So it was so matter of fact because we had the camera on. She's like, of course, Kurt, that's a man's job. It was, she's in her 80s, so roles for her generation are quite distinct. But I guess I need to I didn't know that. Tim says mine's a forest pansy tree. It has huge heart-shaped dark red leaves. Ooh, that sounds great. Lori says no worries and thank you again. You're very welcome. I'm going to try to get through. Maybe that'll be a goal for today, is to catch up on my email. Japan Monomore says, the thing is that a lot of the email that I get, it's not, it's deep, heavy stuff. I mean, people write, you know, people write to me to share about the crossroads in their life, like they're at a juncture. And I need to think about these things. And sometimes they write and they want my thoughts, or they just want to share or something like that. And each of these emails needs consideration and then a thoughtful response. And as a result, it takes me a long time. Sometimes I need days to dwell on the messages that the heavy messages that people send me. That's how this book got started. That's how I ended up writing this book. I would get so many email from people with sharing the heavy stuff in their life, and a lot of it had to do with the same thing, which was being young men and women at the crossroads of their mid 20s, looking at their future and asking me the same question over and over again. So I ended up writing the chapter titled "The Path of Wildness" as a kind of an essay that I posted online. It may still be out there, and that became the book. So again, sorry if it takes me a while to respond to people via email. probably probably the best way anymore to probably the fastest way anymore is YouTube. I'm pretty good about responding to YouTube every day, although I'm about 5 days behind now on that as well. Oh my gosh, I'm so behind. Sorry if I'm going on and about my problem with it's a good problem to have, right? To have heartfelt, human contact that that deserves it, heartfelt human uh, consideration and attention. Japan Monomer says, I hope I'm not being too rude, but how much do you pay for your yearly fixed asset tax or city tax? You mean here in Japan? I don't know. That's something. Okay, so I don't know. And I don't know. I haven't. So we haven't. This is our first year to pay taxes. I know what you're talking about. That's different from the national tax. That's the tax that we pay the city. It's ridiculously cheap. I mean, altogether, our taxes for this place. We bought this house outright, so it's paid for. But our taxes for it are like stupidly cheap, like like less than $200 a year for property taxes. So I don't know if that counts for the city tax or not, but it's ridiculously cheap. April says, "Do you have another near death fall in the garden? I really shook you last time. Yesterday, yeah, you were out making brownies, and I went over it, but I had an almost a replicated experience of the fall last year. Fortunately, sans punji sticks. There were no punji sticks behind me, but Yumiko just happened to be watching me from the house." And she saw that happen, and she yelled out to me to the garden, and it was all caught on the camera that was running. Watch out, Kurt. Be careful. And it kind of, and as I was pulling it, I was like, this is going to happen again. But I knew there was no punji sticks behind me, but there were rocks, so I should be careful. Tim says, the one goal I had when I started retirement, as simple as it sounds, was to be out of the house by 9 a.m., whether it's a walk in the garden, a visit somewhere. Think that helps with the freedom thing. Ooh, that's a good, I like that. Yeah. And rain or shine, huh? April says, I thought that was funny too, since in Japan, women handle the money. My mother-in-law does all the taxes and bills and everything. That's interesting. Yeah, my mother-in-law did did all everything as well. But my 80-plus-year-old student yesterday gave me a sound piece of advice that was my job. April says, it's easier to share with people who share their stories, so it feels like you know them, but you're still sort of anonymous. It's easier to share with people who share their stories. Are you referring to people who write to me to share their stuff? That certainly seems to be the case. People really, it's astonishing what people share with me. April says, the garden is starting to feel like Final Destination. April says, it might be her worldliness. LOL. She got used to men doing that in other places. Maybe, yeah. April says, yes, the write-ins. Like me, too. I'm guilty. I'm guilty, LOL. Ah. Tim says, I try to ignore the weather except if I'm in the garden. Otherwise, I'll never go out. Well, you've got all those guitars to keep you company, right? I did some very selective pruning of the bamboo forest yesterday. I'm down to the point now that if I go too far. It's like when you're painting painting. You can paint. Have to know when to stop, right? I reached the point in the bamboo forest that I have to be very selective of the stalks that I remove. Although bamboo forests are very forgiving in that way, in that they'll send up plenty of new shoots every spring, and to repopulate. So if I overdo it, if I take a little bit out too far, one way or the other, they'll be back. But as I'm doing that, Tim, it's creating a sound corridor. The sound of the river comes through and filters up here to the second floor room, and I can hear it, and it's such a delightful sound. It's amazing how much the bamboo muffled the river sounds. April says, "For my experience with bamboo, it will be back soon." Yes, what she said. Just like taxes, right? Does the river get higher? Yes, it does. Check back, Lori, Jane. If you it only gets higher and lower when with rain, and it's definitely noticeable. The watershed here isn't very big, but when we have typhoons come, it practically can fill the whole water channel up. It's not dangerous. It's well engineered. Um, we had a it almost filled up in this last summer when we had a big typhoon that comes through. But yeah, it definitely changes. It was Lori says Jane says it looks like it was built for high water. It was built for typhoons, and typhoons are just hurricanes in the Pacific, right? So it was built for typhoons, and it can handle them. My wife has lived in beside their house is directly beside the river, so she grew up beside it. She's seen it rise and fall during typhoons, and then her father grew up as well. And it's never really overflowed its banks, though. Tim says bamboo can be grown here, but it's nowhere near like your bamboo in trunk size. Oh, you should see the ones across the river. They're like giant things. Yeah. Japan Monomura says tax and death taxes and death are always a guaranteed certainty. Yes. Tim says bamboo here in the UK is more ornamental. I didn't know you had bamboo in the UK. Wow. April says bamboo is technically a grass, so its weed likeness makes sense. Isn't that interesting? All right, well, I'm going to wrap up for now and get ready for morning exercise with my neighbors and then a nice day. April says my bamboo has skinny trunks, so like a quarter size around. Oh, okay. Maybe that's a sasa type of bamboo. I don't know if it's Japanese bamboo or what it is, but wishing everybody the best. I hope we all have a great day and be safe, but not too safe, everybody. Watch out for pulling those weeds out in the backyard. Don't be a fool like me. Tim says have a great Saturday, and Lori Jane says have a great day all, and Robert says thank you, Kurt. Bye all. Take care, everybody. And happy Saturday or Sunday if you're there or if you're almost there. Bye bye. Bye bye April. Bye bye Japan Monomar.